got to have this conversation. We got our man Chris Broussard joining us in the building now. But we're going to start with you, Rick. Do you see this red-hot Nets team winning the NBA Finals, which would be a feat that hasn't happened, well, getting there at least, since 2003?
No, I don't expect it. Could they? Yes, they very well could. But do I think that they're the odds-on favorite? Would I be shocked if they didn't? No, because I simply look at the East as being wide open. I still need to see, can their small ball style beat the Philadelphia 76ers in the postseason? How much better are the Milwaukee Bucks as a playoff team this year with Drew Holiday and having shortened their regular season rotation? And perhaps most important, with Brooklyn, for all of the success that they've had, and I know they've been playing without Kevin Durant, they're still 22nd in defensive rating. And so the question is, can you win? Can you win consistently in the postseason if your defense isn't better than that? We've seen games where they've gotten it together and they've played solid defense at the end of games to win. But ultimately, teams don't have the ability to headhunt and to matchup hunt the way they do in the postseason. And I look at the personnel that they have that makes them so offensively potent. And no, there's always going to be a Joe Harris on the floor. There's going to be a Kyrie Irving on the floor. There's going to be a James Harden on the floor. Like, teams are going to have the ability to pick who they want to attack and do it consistently in the postseason in a way that's simply not possible in the regular season. And at the other end, defensively, you can kind of make the ball end up in the hands that you want it to end up in. You can get the ball and leave Jeff Green wide open, or Bruce Brown, or whoever you decide is going to be the weak link. So I can't take their success in the regular season and translate that immediately. Having never seen this group together in the postseason, immediately translate to they're going to do the exact same thing they're doing now in the postseason.
I can. And to answer your question about defense, Rick, yes, they can. 22nd? If they're the 22nd best defensive team in the league with this offense, they're winning the East. Look, there are only two things that will stop them from winning the East. Either an injury to Kevin Durant or James Harden, or an implosion. And maybe it's Kyrie, but there's some type of implosion within that locker room or that unit where they just stop playing together. But outside of that, I mean, Rick, they're 11-3 against the West. They're 15-5 against teams 500 or better. Those both are the best in the league. And most of that's without their best player. And you know this, Rick, there is not a superstar in the NBA that is better fit to just be dropped into a lineup and fit seamlessly. Now, obviously, there's always adjustments when you bring in a 30-point score. But Kevin Durant won't over-dribble. He won't take too many shots. He'll get his 25 to 30 points on 16 to 20 shots. So he's going to fit in well whenever he gets back. Defensively, yes, they're not going to be the bad boy Pistons. But guess what? They don't have to be. Today's NBA isn't all about defense anymore either. You know that. The floor is so spread out.
Right now.
You can't hand check. You can't be great defensively. They just have to be adequate and capable of getting a stop when necessary. So, and with that offense, three guys that can all create their own shots, they can get an open look just about every time down the floor. And you notice, Rick, role players, when they're open,
there you go,
can make shots.
There you go.
We see Bruce Brown putting up 20-something points. And last night, Nicholas Claxton giving you a career night. Because they're getting so many open looks because of the attention that the superstars draw.
Chris,
they're the team
regular
in the East,
season.
The team
We've seen how many role players have we seen? How many times has LeBron James made the right basketball play to someone as accomplished as a Kyle Korver to hit a big shot in the postseason, and it doesn't go down? Mo Williams. I could name the number of role players. Harrison Barnes. The number of role players
they had
who in the postseason were wide open, and with the pressure of the postseason on them, could not come through because it's different than the regular season. I'm not gonna go there with that. But you said something that I find very interesting. You made it almost sound like Kyrie Irving is dispensable. Like if it's Harden and it's KD, that's enough for these guys to still be on the wagon and ending up in the NBA Finals. I don't want to misconstrue that. So is that what you're saying, that he is the third least important member of this trio, and that if injury happened to him, you said if Harden or KD got hurt, you didn't say Kyrie. So is he disposable when it comes to this trio?
He's the third best player. KD's the best, obviously, and Harden's the second best, and chasing real close on KD. Kyrie's the third best player. And I think, look, if they had Harden and Kyrie and no Kevin Durant, then I would be more with you. Like, they could win the East, but they wouldn't be my pick. If they have Harden and KD, they're still my pick. And if they have KD and Kyrie, they're still my pick, but it's closer. So, yeah, I think Rick Harden is playing like he could be the MVP of the league. Some people are going to hold Houston the way he left, the way he quit on them for 5 or 6 games. Some will hold that against him. But James Harden, I think, is playing better than anyone on the planet. Maybe Luka over the last month, who's really stepped it up. But Harden is playing tremendous basketball. And his unselfishness, Rick, the fact that he would step in, take 8 to 10 fewer shots than he was getting in Houston, play point guard, that unselfishness has been contagious throughout that team. And so offensively, everyone is making the extra pass, the role players are getting touches. They're happy as larks. They're getting plenty of touches. So now on the other end, they're hustling. They are getting after it. And I got to credit Kyrie and Harden as well. They're putting forth effort defensively. They're not great defenders. But, yeah, I think Kyrie is their third best player.
So, but that's my problem, is that we're not the regular season, but postseason, when you're playing against the best of the best, Kyrie Irving and Harden, it can't just be effort. You have to be a good defender. You have to be able to defend your position. And I just have a hard time seeing Kyrie and Joe Harris and James Harden all defending at a high enough level for them to get there. And to your point, yes, defense has been horrible in the regular season. And maybe that will continue into the postseason. But generally, when you're able to game plan, you can force the ball to certain places. And the first thing I'm going to do in my game plan is I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to let Kyrie Irving be the decision maker, because we've seen that. We saw it against San Antonio, where we've seen it multiple times this year. When you put it in Kyrie's hands, Kyrie's going to go get his. And it's not always the best shot or the best decision. And so if I can load up and make it a Kyrie show, that's one more way of trying to minimize the impact of this offense, because I know when I have them on defense that I'm going to be able to score.
This offense has been minimal all year long because they haven't all played together for an extended amount of time. But yet they're still first in points per game. Yet they're still first in field goal percentage, which is very important. They're second in three-point percentage. Very important. Why? Because when I think about what we talk about, what needs to happen to be able to get to that final, especially in the East, I think it's more so about the other teams than it is about Brooklyn. We know what we're going to get out of Kevin Durant if he's healthy. We know what we're going to get out of Kyrie Irving if he's healthy. Same with James Harden. I don't care what order you put them in, from most important to least important, because they're going to be more important than the first, second, and third options of any other team that they're going to play against, if you ask me my humble estimation on it. I don't trust the 76ers because they haven't given us reason to trust them once you get into those critical games that you're speaking of those role players making those shots in big moments in the playoffs, Rick. When I look at the 76ers, they have to show me me that they can use that grit or find that grit, that intestinal fortitude necessary to be able to push through to that next level. I think the same thing exists for the Boston Celtics. Now, we could throw some other teams out there. Is Giannis and those guys going to be able to bring a little bit more maturity and a little bit more, more than a one-dimensional type of game to challenge? Maybe so, but I don't see a team in the East that can stand up to the offensive onslaught that will come their way if all three of these guys are on the court and all healthy. It just doesn't add up. So I would say it's more so about what these other teams aren't bringing to the table as to the reason why we will see them in the finals versus what it is that we're focusing in on technically and specifically as it applies to the Brooklyn Nets. And
that's a fair
can
point,
take
LaVar,
that.
because Milwaukee has the same problem they've had the last few years. Giannis is not a closer. And, Rick, to your point, in the playoffs, that's going to become more and more evident, just like it has the past 2 years. Then you look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia does have a formula, or potentially has a formula, that could give Brooklyn trouble. Joel Embiid and even Ben Simmons inside. You know this, Rick. Now, Grant, Embiid's inside on the block more than ever this year, but still, he still probably spends 65% of his time out on the perimeter. If he was going to be on the block and punish the Nets' small lineup, then I'd go. But he's not. He's going to give them 30, but a lot of it's going to come from the perimeter, and he's not going to really punish them for being small the way he could. If I'm Philly, I'd probably want to slow down the game. Have Simmons and Embiid both inside at different times and kill the Nets inside and slow the game down, because I think you're going to have trouble outscoring them. And Philly's got a good perimeter defense, and they shoot the three well. So they have a formula, but will they play it? And even if they do, I think the Brooklyn Nets are still better.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out. This all gets interesting, and I love hearing you guys debate. I was a fly on the wall on this segment because it was important to let y'all do y'all thing.